Hello, welcome back. This is Calculus by Dr. Oz. We're continuing with Chapter 2 sections. And Chapter 2 is all about limits of functions, and the properties of limits. So today, specifically, we're going to go over evaluating limits analytically. In the previous section, we in fact tried finding limit values by using numerical or graphical approaches. This time we're going to detour all of them and we're going to use analytical techniques including algebra to evaluate limits of functions at the given points. We have 5 learning objectives. That means you're going to have 5 videos for this section in total. The first learning objective is evaluating a limit using properties of limits. So we're going to define properties of limits. And in the second video, we're going to develop and use a strategy. So I'm going to provide you a recipe for finding limits. In the third video, we're going to evaluate a limit using the dividing out technique. That's an algebra technique. And in the fourth video, we're going to use another technique called rationalizing technique. And finally, we have a very cool result from calculus called the squeeze theorem to be able to evaluate a limit. And just to give you a heads up, if you can use one of those techniques listed in the learning objectives of this section, you don't need a graphical or numerical approach, table of sample values, to evaluate limits. The techniques that we're going to learn in this section heavily use algebra. So you have the algebra formula card in Blackboard. Please refer back to this formula card for your own reference because that's what I'm going to do in my videos. All right, let's start with the first learning objective, which is the properties of limits. Let's see what we have. In the previous section, if you remember, we were looking at the limits where the function was not defined at the limit point. So we excluded that point from the domain, but we still checked the limit. So it may turn out that the C point may be in the domain of the function. So it may happen that the limit is precisely f of c. So we call this a direct substitution. So essentially, once this limit question is being asked to you, so limit of f as x approaches c, that may potentially be equal to f of c if c is in the domain of the function. So if you can directly substitute the given limit point into your function, that means your function is a well-behaving function and that has a name in calculus. We call those functions to be continuous at point C. And we have a result here that we have simple well-behaving functions in calculus. One of them is like a constant function. Let's say like b is a constant, so which is just a line if you sort of like graph this function, constant function. So as x approaches c, limit of a constant b is just a constant itself. So, and another well-behaving function is f of x equals x. So as x approaches c, by direct substitution, you can just say like x equals c. So the limit value is going to be exactly equal to c. And another well-behaving function is x to the power of n. And if you look at the limit of this function as x approaches c, it's just direct substitution. Just plug in c for x, and you have c to the power of n as the limit value. And here n has to be a positive integer because if it's a negative number, then you're talking about the reciprocal. You're going to be careful about that. Very simple examples. So you have a constant function 3 here, and you're looking at the limit as x approaches 2. Constant functions have the same limit as that constant, whatever that constant is. In this case, it's 3, so this limit value is going to be 3. And for part B, we have the limit of x as x approaches negative 4. By the direct substitution, x equals negative 4, so the limit value is going to be just negative 4. And finally, we have x squared here. X approaches 2, so by direct substitution, the limit value is going to be 2 squared, which is exactly equal to 4. As you see that, I didn't use any numerical calculation or table of sample values or graphics of these functions, but just direct substitution, which is essentially using some algebra. And here are the properties of limits in general. Let's say like you have 2 functions f and g, and you have b and c to be real numbers, n to be a positive integer, So let's say like you know the limit of f and limit of g at the limit point x equals c, so x approaches c. So let's say like f has the limit L, g has the limit k. So let's look at what these properties are telling us. It says that the limit of the scalar multiple of f is that scalar times the limit value of f at x equals c. Okay, this is the first property. In other words, you can always pull b out and look at the limit of f, which is L, capital L in the statement here. So b times L is the limit. And if you have the sum or difference, so limit of the sum or difference of two functions is the sum or difference of the limit values. So it's either L plus k or L minus k. Okay? And then the third property, it says like limit of the product is the product of the limit. So this is L times k. Okay, so you're just looking at the product of the limit values. And limit of the quotient, f and g, is equal to the quotient of the limit values, L and k. So it's L over k, but we have to be careful. K is not allowed to be 0. If this k is equal to 0, that doesn't work, okay? This property doesn't work. And finally, if you look at the limit of f raised to the power of n, and it's essentially equal to the limit value raised to the power of n, and in this case, it's L to the power of n. So I'm going to refer the properties of limits time to time to split the limits into smaller pieces, divide and conquer type technique that we're going to use along the way. So make sure like you know all of these properties. All right, let's use these properties to calculate or evaluate the limit of a polynomial. In this case, the polynomial is 4x squared plus 3, and x approaches 2. So this is your c, so c equals 2, and the function is 4x squared plus 3. You can use the direct substitution to conclude that this limit is equal to 4 times 2 squared plus 3, which is in fact 4 times 4, 16 plus 3, that's 19, okay? But also you can use the divide and conquer technique to like split this limit into smaller pieces. For example, here you have the limit of the sum of two functions. Why don't you split this as the limit of 4x squared plus the limit of the constant part, okay? And then using another property, in fact property 1, you can always pull this 4 out. So 4 is out, so you check the limit of x squared here, and you still have this limit of the constant. And we know that the limit of the constant is just that constant 3, and a limit of x squared is just 2 plugged in, so it's 2 squared. So at the end of the day, you have 4 times 2 squared plus 3, which is essentially 19. As I said before, you can also find this limit by just directly substituting 2 to the polynomial originally provided to you. And if you want to convince yourself that the limit is in fact 19, you can just graph this function around 2. So as x's get closer to 2, function values get closer and closer to 19. By using our expertise in the previous example, we can generalize this to more general polynomial or rational functions. Let's say like if you have a polynomial function, and if c is a real number, limit of a polynomial at the limit point c is just c being substituted to the polynomial, so it's a direct substitution, so it's equal to p of c. Or if you have a rational function p over q, and let's say like c is a real number and q at c is not equal to 0, so the bottom is not equal to 0 at x equals c. So the limit of the rational function is found by direct substitution, which is p of c divided by q of c. And here's a cool example as an application of this concept here. So you have a rational function, x squared plus x plus 2 divided by x plus 1. So this is your p function, this is your q function, and the limit point is 1 because x approaches 1. So I know that q of 1, which is 1 plus 1, is not equal to 0. So we're safe to use this direct substitution technique here. So essentially what I'm going to do is substituting 1 for x in the description of the rational function. So it becomes 1 squared plus 1 plus 2 divided by 1 plus 1. So we're safe. You're not dividing by 0. So that adds up to 4 divided by 2. That's essentially equal to 2. And if you want to convince yourself graphically, go ahead and then graph the rational function in the neighborhood of 1, as you see that the corresponding function values approach 2. And again, you can also use the table of sample values, but that takes longer time. Using direct substitution is a good detour of finding limits of functions. We have more properties here, so let's assume that n is a positive integer. And let's say like you have the nth root of x as x approaches c. You can also find this limit by direct substitution. So essentially, when I provide you the recipe, you will see that direct substitution is the first thing to start with to evaluate limits of at least basic functions. And another properties for composite functions, let's say like you have f and g to be continuous, to be the functions provided to you. Let's say like limit of g as x approaches c is exactly equal to L, and limit of f as x approaches L equals f of L. So both limits exist, but be careful here. The limit of g is given at x equals c, and that's equal to L, and the limit of f is at the limit point x equals capital L. So that should exist as well, okay? So it's f of L. So then the limit of the composition of two functions as x approaches c is essentially f of the limit of g, which is already found to be L. So then the whole thing adds up to f of L. And there are also some other known functions like trig functions, transcendental functions like exponential and logarithmic functions. Again, we're using the same deal, so we're going to look at the direct substitution. As long as c, the limit point, is in the domain of these functions like sine, cosine, tan, cotan, secant, and cosecant, a to the x and ln x, so you're safe to plug in c for x. So for that reason, I would go back to the trig formula card and remember the domains of these basic functions, especially for the first 6 trig functions listed here. Also remember that the ln function is defined for positive x's, so when you look at this limit, c better be something positive, otherwise the limit is not going to be defined. All right, let's look at these limits. Here we go. So we have a radical function, and we know that for radical functions we can use direct substitution. So I'm going to substitute 0 for x to get 0 squared plus 4. That takes me to radical 4, and radical 4 is always positive 2. Okay, so because radical of a number is always positive. And in the second case, we have the cubic root of this function. I'm going to try the direct substitution here. Let's see if it's going to work. So cubic root of 2, this time the limit point is 3. So 2 times 3 squared minus 10. Okay, so let's see what we have. So cubic root of 2 times 9, so 18, minus 10. And that is the cubic root of 8, and 8 is 2 cubed, so we get the result, the limit value, to be exactly equal to 2. Let's also look at these examples. I have 4 of them. So limit of tangent x as x approaches 0. Well, we know that 0 is in the domain of tangent function, so I can directly substitute 0 for x, so that's tan 0, and that's equal to 0. And you can also use your calculator if this limit number is not a trivial number for which you know the tangent value. But make sure like you put your calculator in the radian mode before you do this calculation. All right, the next example is the limit of sine squared x. In other words, this is sine x quantity squared, and we know that 0 is in the domain of sine function because the domain of sine is all real numbers. So all we're going to do here is to substitute 0 for x so that this becomes sine of 0 quantity squared, but sine of 0 is equal to 0. So this is 0 squared, and therefore the limit value is equal to 0. Let's stare at this example here. So you have x and e to the x as x approaches -1. You can use direct substitution perfectly, but why don't we use one of the limit properties that we learned earlier? So we have the product of x and e to the x. So I can write this as the product of the limits of each guy. So one is the limit of x, the other one is the limit of e to the x, and x approaches -1 in both cases as well. So this limit is easy because you're using the direct substitution, so x is -1. And this limit as well is easy because you're substituting -1 for x. So that takes you to e to the -1. You have a product in between. So the product is going to be minus e to the -1, or in other words, you can use the reciprocal. It's -1 over the number e. And finally, we have ln of x cubed as x approaches e. I'm using a property of the natural log function, which essentially is I can always pull the exponent out so that this ln x cubed turns out to be 3 times ln x, and the rest is using the limit property, which is directly substituting e for x. So here we go. This is equal to 3 times ln e, but ln e is a very special value. Because e is a very special number. So ln e is equal to 1. That makes the limit of ln x cubed as x approaches e to be exactly equal to 3. We are done with the first learning objective of this section. And again, we use the properties of limits. And in fact, specifically, we learned how to use direct substitution to evaluate limits of functions. All right, so move on to my next video to see what I'm going to say for the second learning objective here. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.